Okay, so basically, scenario set up, we've got somebody hidden, and so ground search and rescue has been called in because you've got a report of a lost or missing person, and they've been reported as a client of Project Lifesaver. When they show up on scene, they will have the frequency, but you also, the plan is that you're also going to have access to that frequency in your database as well. So he checks, puts his frequency in it, checks it, makes sure he's got the right one in, and then he takes and sets his machine up, jacks the volume all the way to the top and the gain all the way to the top. And the gain is the sensitivity in terms of receiving the signal. You hear that beep? So if he shows up at a scene, and he hears that signal, we're golden. We got him. We've got signal acquisition. We're in range. Just a matter of time to chase him down at this point.
So what would the range be that you should be able to get some?
The book answer is 1 mile.
1 mile, okay.
Okay, on the ground, and it's 5 to 7 in the air. 5 to 7 in the air. Okay. Now, we've done some testing on the ground. We've gotten better results than that on the ground. We've gotten better results than that in the air. Okay.
Dependent on terrain? Dependent on terrain?
Terrain plays a little, weather plays a little bit with it, things like that. Okay, so some days a little better, some days a little worse type of results. Another thing that we've done with this technology too is one of the claims that they make is that it transmits up to 18 feet underwater. So I don't believe things until I see it. So I took a transmitter, put it in a Ziploc bag because it's worth $300.
Yeah.
And I put it in a Ziploc bag. It's watertight, but it's, and then I put it inside of a watertight camera case. Again, just making sure. Tied it to an anchor, and I dropped it 6 feet under the surface in Lake George.
Yeah.
And that was 75 feet offshore. Came back in on the paddle boat, fired up the receiver. I can pick that up no problem. Okay.
Excellent.
Then on top of that, my cottage is 1,000 feet up the shore from that. I went up the shore to my cottage and stood on my deck, and I could just barely, but I could still pick up that signal and pick up the direction of it from 1,000 feet away, 6 feet underwater.
Above and away in distance, so you're depth below water.
Depth below 6 feet below water, and I was 1,000 feet away from it. Right? So I mean, that coupled with the fact that they've been at this since April of 1999, they've got 2,162 searches, and every one of them have been successful. There's a history behind this particular technology. It's hard to argue with. And actually, in most jurisdictions, this is a law enforcement tool. It actually is in the hands of the sheriff's office and that kind of stuff. We're somewhat atypical here with this going into ground search.
Except the OPP, is that run?
The OPP, yeah. So it's the sheriffs and the OPP and that kind of thing. Yeah. But as far as not to say that we're the only ground search team or that type of thing. Some fire departments in the states have it and that kind of stuff. But primarily the core is law enforcement.
Yeah.
So law enforcement has bought into this really heavily. Okay, so Frank is going to do what we call our 360 spin. He's come on site. You would do this whether you did or didn't get a signal, just to see whether you could pick it up, because you might turn it on. Now he turned it on and he picked up a signal right off the bat. Hold up, Frank. Don't go too far away. Yeah. That's the other thing, you have to be careful with metal buildings and reflections of certain signals. But the other thing is stay away from him with the antenna. You might poke your eye when swinging. But when he gets on scene, he's going to do a 360 swing. Now, if the person's really close, we're going to get what we call signal swamping, right? So no matter what direction you're pointing, you're going to get a signal. So then what he does is he dials the gain down, okay, until he starts. So he's only picking up a signal on half the pie, and then he keeps dialing that gain down until he starts bringing it down. And then what he does, okay, when you got it down to something like about like this, then he swings it back and forth and figures out, okay, I lose the signal here, I lose the signal here. Halfway between that, the median. That's my strongest signal, that's where the direction I'm traveling. Okay, sir. So that's what he's about to do. He's getting signal all the way around. So now he's going to dial his gain down. As you're getting closer, keep working that gain down, Keep reducing the sensitivity of the instrument, because if you're getting closer to it, the signal is picking up stronger. And if you get more and more practice with this thing, you're going to get a sense of, okay, I've got a gain of such and such on this instrument. I should be approximately so far from this person, right? Because as you get more experienced with this, you're going to understand this.
By the sound of the beeping.
Yeah, and there's actually a meter on there that shows the signal strength.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing that I didn't mention to the other group earlier is that as you get close to the person, there's also a unique ID built into that as well that'll pop up on the screen. So if by chance you happen to have two that are on the same frequency, you know, in the same area, it's going to pop up and tell you that you're on ID number such and such. So you don't necessarily have to take the degree.
So that ID will give this information.
You don't have the information. All you know is you've got a frequency and ID number.
How was the identifier for the individual? How was it attached to the basic?
Hello, big boy.
How you doing?
That's it right there.
Not too bad. Yeah.
It brings you right into the person. So like if you were walking down through here and say the young person, you know, the child you're looking for was in there, right? As you're walking by, all of a sudden your signal's going to drop off and you're going to go, hold on now, and you're going to do a 360 swing and it's going to turn you right back into that. So walking, you won't, like you might walk by somebody for just a second, right? Then your signal's going to plummet and then you're going to turn back into them. Okay?
Even if they were covered up.
So even if they were covered up, they could be 6 feet underwater.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time, yeah.
Right.
Big time.
Well, thank God we got you.
How you doing? Well,